Please stand for the pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Good morning, everyone.
Morning, Mr. Chair. Morning, everybody.
Any additions or deletions?
Not at this time, Mr.
All
Chair.
right, I need a motion.
So moved.
Second.
I got a motion and a second. Any more discussion? If not, those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, motion carried. Approval of consent agenda, moving right along. Is there anything that anybody would like to take off the agenda to discuss? Otherwise, I would ask for a motion.
Make a motion to approve.
This will
Mr.
be a
Chair.
roll call. I need a second.
Second.
I have a second. All right. Commissioner Casper,
Aye.
Commissioner Blaine,
Aye.
Jelinski,
Aye.
Lemire.
Aye.
Myself is an aye, motion carried. Gentlemen, Crookneck, come on up, please.
I'm just checking if you're here. Well, you need that test.
Exactly.
Morning, Dan. Morning, Don.
Morning. 1 minute into things and here we are.
Yeah, this is quick today. All righty,
Everybody's lively this morning.
yeah, I see that.
Everybody's awake.
Well, if I can jump right to the first slide, it'd probably be easier, and I'll give you a synopsis as we go through it. Please ask any questions that you may have. This slide was not included last year in a report that I gave you because I think I was here late August. And this was done shortly after that visit with you. This is the lake survey that's done, and it's predominantly goes after looking for Eurasian water milfoil. We first had it in 18, we treated 19 and 20, and since then we have not had any Eurasian milfoil. And the location of it is that little black circle that's down there. That's where it was located, and we haven't had any since then. Now, I can tell you, I just got the report for 24 and same results. So we didn't have any in 24. It's a verbal report. I don't have the official yet. So I can give you that now. The yellow dots that you see in there, we also have a dive survey that we've contracted for to look for zebra mussels. Zebra mussels are found at the same time that they confirmed that we had the Eurasian water milfoil. They were found on the dock outside of the access, public access, and no zebra mussels have ever been found since then. So we still don't have any zebra mussels that we're able to locate. And we talked to all of the, we have one predominant dock service that takes out between 30, 40 docks a year. We know them fairly well. One of them lives on the lake. And he searches all the docks pretty close. And so we're pretty confident that we don't have any active zebra mussels in the lake right now, but we're still on the list and we probably won't come off the list. And our zebra villager testing that you sponsor, we're negative on those also, but we don't have this year's testing results yet. This fall, they also looked for rush, I think it's called rushweed. Flowering rush is a new one that's in several lakes. We didn't have any of that one either. The spread where you see the yellow on the top, we still have the yellow iris. Yellow iris is a concern if the water's high. It's on our shoreline. People put it in there to protect the shoreline, but the water's receded, so it's above the shoreline. It's not in the water, and so it's not an issue right now. But if the water gets high again, then we have to do something about it. It's very difficult to get rid of. It's got a tremendous root structure, and so then you take it out, you destroy the
Shoreline.
the soil in that area. So we'd have more erosion. So it's kind of a two-edged sword. So 23, 24 survey is identical. Next slide going down. This is what we said we were going to do last year. You're going to find it's the same thing that we said this year. We surveyed, we're going to treat, we're going to monitor the performance, and we're going to manage the CLID. Starting at the bottom, we did everything that we said we were going to do managing. We met all the state criteria that we had to do and our establishment order. And so we're good to go on that one. Water quality studies, the lake is in healthy conditions. It's a mesotrophic state, which is what you would expect to find. I will say that when I go out and I do the Secchi dish, which is how far you can see down, I'm averaging about 13 feet, which you would think is zebra mussels, because last year, you know, I would get some readings where there was one couple of days where I only got 6 feet. And so you might question, well, why it's so clear? But it's just the way it is this year. Tremendous amount of weeds this year, native weeds, early spring. But so the water's clear, but we're well within our normal standards. And our trends are where you'd expect them to be.
And I suppose clear water makes more weeds.
More weeds.
Yeah.
And
More sunlight.
More sunlight. And then we did treat and we did survey, and we can go to the next slide down, and I'll be able to show you where we treated this year. So that's the grid pattern. And you'll notice that that's one zone and 2 zone adds up to 6.9 acres. Same amount that we treated last year. So 2 years in a row, came out the same acreage. Little different pattern in the last time. If you see that little one, that little hook that goes up to the right in the center of the lake, we branched up into that area just a slight amount, and we had a bigger area in the middle that we didn't treat. Other than that, 6.9. Year before, we treated almost 10 acres, and in 2 years back, so 22. We treated a little bit more. This is an oddity in that everybody would have predicted you would have had a lot more curly-leaf this year, because we had a late ice in, early ice out, no snow. Curly-leaf grows in the winter. Should have had a lot of sunshine to grow, and it didn't. And that's what we found on a lot of lakes. And then DNR has their rules. Once you hit a certain temperature, you have to do your surveys and treat. But we had growth going into June, and many of the other lakes did too. Well, you have to treat by the end of April, because lake starts to warm up, and we got warm early. And so I suspect that we treated our area, but we probably had some up in that hook that we didn't have enough density to get a permit to treat for. And we probably branched up a little bit on the right-hand bottom that we perhaps could have treated some more, but we didn't have the density to be able to treat it. And it's all subjected to temperature of the lake, and that's because they will not allow you to treat once the natives start to grow. That's all based on native growth.
Mr. Chair,
Commissioner Zelinski.
to the casual observer, a weed is a weed, is a weed is a weed is a weed. And as we're sunfish fishing and catching a perch or walleye fish, whatever, doesn't make any difference. A weed to the casual person is a weed is a weed is a weed. Curly leaf pondweed is absolutely different than the weed when you say very weedy this year. You're not necessarily talking about curly leaf. You are, because it's there, but are you talking about another weed? Just, again, to the casual observer, a weed is a weed is a weed.
Yeah, I would be referring to, we had a lot of naiads that come. It's a group. It looks like tumbleweed to me,
Okay?
what I used to see.
Yeah.
It grows up like a big bush, and then it gets loose, and it just sits there, and you can't get through it with a motor.
Yep.
You can't fish through it. And I live down on the bay area. There's a lot of it in the bay, but we had it throughout, and then it breaks off and it floats. And then you just rake it out. And Don, I think that was your observation on your end?
Oh, yeah, same thing.
It is everywhere. And I think what happened this year was due to this temperature changes, ice and everything, it got a hold first.
Okay.
And then the other ones that we've had over recent years in the lower water, temperature changes, ice conditions, growth patterns, you got these other weeds that are normally choked out.
Gotcha.
So we had a different pattern of weeds, population of weeds this year, and you couldn't fish. You can't get through it. And so if you're just anchoring and trying to fish for that, you could, but you couldn't control.
Yeah. Thank
The
you.
other thing we're noticing is, a week ago, large bass, not large bass, large-sized bass, in the numbers of 10 to 15 were found dead,
Oh, really?
floating, and we're talking bass this big. Why? Don't know, but we think low oxygen concentration in the lake, because some of these weeds are starting to die off, and as they decompose, use up all the oxygen. and we had a tremendous die-off of fish.
Oh, jeez.
And, you know, you start losing 10 to 15 of those fish, that's a lot in our lake.
You bet.
And we think it's that population of those weeds. So we have been I've been in conversation with the DNR and asking them on another year, could we harvest, treat, get rid of some of these weeds if we get another year like this? Because it is devastating to the lake.
Harvest and treat, I understand, and I'm gonna go back into, way back in time. You're not going through there with the bed spring because it's not gonna work.
No, it doesn't work.
It just isn't gonna work. There's just too much. Okay, got it. Thank you. Thank you very
In
much.
years back, prior to 2005, when we treated curly leaf, they used to come with a harvester.
Yep.
And it would just
Yep.
blow them all out, and then we would take them out of the lake.
Yep.
Because otherwise, you're just putting them in the bottom of the lake and they just decompose.
So when that said, do you have a harvester that comes through it once in a while and would be interested in taking those out?
Not since 2005.
Okay,
We haven't done anything.
okay,
When we started the treatment program,
understood. Thank you,
wouldn't allow us to do both.
thank you.
I guess my question is, has things changed? Are we allowed to do both now?
And that's a conversation that I've entered into, and that's something they haven't allowed so far,
Okay,
DNR.
okay,
Very limited.
very good.
So we would have to be designated as a sentinel lake to study that.
Okay,
Okay, so the treasurer's report, we're financially sound. As an organization, we feel we're financially sound. We feel we can get through 2 bad years of high-growth weeds and having to treat a lot of weeds. And the reason we like to go through 2 cycles is because of the levy process. We don't see the money until a couple of years down the road, if we had to recover. Next slide. So at our meeting this year, again, this is what we proposed to at our meeting that we would like them to approve, and our membership approved it, and this is what we'll be asking you to concur at the end of the meeting. Same performance plan as last year, and we've done the same thing for probably, 10 years or so. Survey, treat, monitor, and manage the CLID. On the next slide. This one I may have to explain to you just a little bit. The proposed budget, way on the left, is the one that the membership approved, and it's high numbers. We don't anticipate at all we're gonna spend this money unless we get into that scenario where we'll treat harvest, or we have to treat multiple areas, or we get whatever back. We fully anticipate we're gonna be more in the 2025 projected cost area. It more mimics what we've been doing, with the exception the admin cost is bumped up by 1,000, and that's because now every 5 years, we cannot talk our way out of doing that I'll call it the audit, where the state wants us to do it. And so it costs a little bit over $5,000, so we're earmarking 1,000 towards it each year. So we know we're gonna have to do that. The projected cost is the one we base the proposed levy on. The budget is the one we ask our membership to approve, so we don't get our hands tied on how much we can spend on any given year. And so the membership approved our 25 proposed budget, knowing that we could spend up to that much money if we had a tremendously bad year. But we told them that we're gonna work the levy based on the projected cost, because we're very comfortable having around $90,000 in our operating budget, or our total budget. And so what we're asking for today is to approve this, but recognizing that we work the levy on the projected cost. Next slide. And then our levy, we know as a board that we have the ability to set the levy based on, they tell us what they want us to do. Here's the budget, now how do we pay for it? But we did get a lot of comments from the members who were there. And we look at the treatment costs, what we think they're gonna be, various kinds of herbicides. We've now used Diquat for about 4 years, coming up on 5. Sometimes it's to our advantage to use one herbicide and then switch to another for a year or two and then go back. It tends to get better outcome by doing that. We know that we've been very fortunate getting the grants from the county, That helps us out, and our health, and then we do get public comments. Before we know, it, we could drop our levy down and still be good. But also at the same time, everybody told us, it's $40. We can live with 40 and we don't like the yo-yo, just keep it the same, is basically the comment that we got from people. So, based on that, the board set the levy at $40 for next year. And that's pretty much my report, but at this time, what I'm requesting from you is that you would concur with that by motion, our performance plan, our budget, and our levy.
Mr. Chair,
Go ahead, Commissioner Lemay.
I'll make a motion to approve the performance plan, budget, and levy for Crookneck Lake, Lake Improvement District.
I need a second.
I'll second that, Mr. Chair.
Any more discussion?
Dan, does the 24,000 represent the $40? Or does the 24,000 weed treatment, does that reflect the $40 assessment?
No.
Oh,
It's
it's through what you have in the bank?
what we have in the bank. Yeah, it basically will represent about 6,400, 6,500.
Okay. And I read your minutes from your meeting, and everything was positive, which is nice to see. And you always bring one of the best proposals here before us. You should actually give a class on how you do yours.
Oh, maybe it's too much.
No, it's
No,
perfect.
no, it's, yeah.
If I, again, you guys, I think, want to run into only lakes that actually apply, or there's other lakes that apply for that grant, which we appreciate that. Is that something, and I don't know how you separate it out, you have your levy dollars and then you have your grant dollars. Again, I know we got X amount of dollars to give to each AI or each lake associations, but you're proposing to apply for it again, and do you use that money right away? I know there's restrictions kind of on how you do it, like for signage and all that stuff. So do you use that money up every year?
The 2 previous years, we didn't, because we were planning on, we didn't know if we'd have milfoil. We didn't have any milfoil, so we returned that. And we didn't know if we were gonna be able to use dicot. We used to use Aquathal K, that's the primary one that you have to use for treating curly leaf. But then we got dicot, which is, $1 versus 10 per gallon. So it's much cheaper. And we did that through a study with the DNR, local, the Sauk Rapids DNR. And so we didn't know they were gonna switch back on us. This past year, we solely put in based on dicot. And I think we're gonna be returning to you maybe $50, but that's based on, it's always, to be honest with you, it's very much a challenge, the educational piece. I sit there and I dream up, what can I do educational? It's very easy. Surveys, that's contract. Treatment, based on the survey, but it's gonna be pretty close. And then whatever, we just base it on history, average, this is how much we think we're gonna need, and then put in for that, and knowing we will cover the rest. And then education. I sit there and I just dream up for weeks, what can we do? It's either signage, this past time we did a
Pamphlets.
brochure on yellow iris.
It was just, again,
Tremendous amount of work.
every link is a little different, and
Yeah.
they have that, and again, the education part, again, you can lead a horse to water, you just can't make
Yeah.
him drink,
Now, it was very interesting. The DNR had an article in the paper the past week, or a couple weeks ago, that if people would just clean their boat,
Right.
we wouldn't have the issue anymore. And, and the lakes talk about it, that how can people not know to clean their boats anymore? And what more can you do?
Right, yeah, exactly, yep.
So I'm not sure, but yeah, we'll be probably returning $50 because
Oh, no,
the printing
again,
just came
you
in
guys
so low
always
this year.
Your lake was always using it properly, I think,
So-
not that everyone else was, but, yeah, we appreciate, the education part of it too.
So,
I
yeah,
guess, as
we'll
possible.
be submitting again, but we'll probably still submit for dipot.
Sure.
Because it's worked well. We get a little bit larger temperature range too, working with the DNR.
Gentlemen, any more, Commissioner Jelinski?
Mr. Chair, I got a couple things. Can we talk about the weed harvesting just for a second? A lake owner that's got weeds in front of their property alongside their dock, I'm fairly aware that you can go through the DNR to get a permit to have those weeds removed by, I'm just gonna call it a licensed weed harvester. I'm probably using the wrong term, but I think you know what I'm talking about. I mean, they operate almost like farm implementary and remove the weeds. I'm not saying that they're removed permanent, but they're removed for a time. Number one, are there any people on the lake that utilize that type of weed harvesting? I'm pretty positive, I understood you very clearly, Dan, when you said that you're not doing that as an organization, going into the lake harvesting weeds. I understand that. But are there any people that are doing it alongside their docks?
Commercially?
Yeah,
Commercially, no,
okay,
at this time.
okay,
Prior to 2005-ish,
okay,
when this organization began, we did have a Hockney, it was a brand, and you just kind of rode along in it, and you could cut a swath of probably from year to year.
Yep.
Drop it down, sickle mower,
yep,
and then push the weeds to shore.
sure,
The association, not the lid, but we have a counterpart association, owned one. They could cut down probably 5 feet.
Sure.
Drop it down, and then raise it up as you cut the shore. A lot of people use that.
okay,
But once we went to lid, that had to go away.
oh,
So that went away. Since then, we have some people who buy, and Don, you might have one, you can buy these things that go back and forth.
Yeah.
Weed roller.
A weed roller,
yep,
and they clean.
yep,
Now they block anything from growing
sure,
and clean out some of the silt, so forth. There are people that have those. And then you have individuals like myself, and there's probably maybe 10 people on the lake who also hire a commercial treater, same person we use, PLM.
sure,
And they'll come in and treat twice a year, your property.
Yep.
And that eliminates all the weeds, and they can go half the width,
okay,
100 feet out.
okay,
And then, and that eliminates everything too. Well, most,
sure,
not everything.
sure.
And then there's a tremendous amount of people that just manually go in there and
And rake, yeah,
cut.
sure,
There's cutters you can buy now that
Okay.
manually cut them off the
Okay.
base,
okay,
and they let them float.
okay,
That's the problem.
That's the problem,
Yeah.
is letting them float.
yep, understood.
Anything you do like that, it rests on the bottom, and it's all that organic material, and what are you doing? You're fertilizing for more weeds,
Yep,
you know?
Yep.
And there's a lot of people that do it and just throw it in.
and then, Mr. Chair, just have one more thing. And I read your report, and very nice as always. I want to talk about the high prop thrust boats.
Oh, okay.
And I know you've got a couple of them from time to time, or maybe always, I don't know. And I remember, I want to say last year, maybe the year before, I don't know, where you perhaps talked to legislation or legislators in regards to that. Has that gone anywhere? I would anticipate trying to keep them off of small bodies of water versus large bodies of water. I don't know that. I'm just for a question.
Yeah, I guess we're kind of in that area where size of our lake, number
Yep.
one, the depth of our lake.
Yep,
And it's small, it's shallow, so those high thrusts are really just tearing up beds, fish beds, and everything else. Normally, when you have no wake, you talk about no wake 300 feet from shore. From what they learned on with St. Anthony Falls is that with the high thrust boats, you have to double that. You have to go to 600 feet. Well, 600 feet from each shore on our lake, you go like that pretty much, you know, and that's it. And like I said, that takes care of the wake somewhat, but it still doesn't clear up the point that it's tearing up the bottom and tearing up fish beds and everything else. So there's supposed to be more research coming out of St. Anthony Falls, which hasn't come out yet. They're doing a little more in-depth information, and we don't feel it's our part to just say, well, we don't, we're just gonna shut that down. We gotta have some backing on that, some solid science.
Yep.
Otherwise, it's just improper, we feel. So that's where we're at right now. We're waiting for this more information to come out of St. Anthony Falls.
Understood, thank you. Mr. Chair, that's all I have, thank you.
Gentlemen, we have a motion and we have a second. Any more discussion? This is gonna be a roll call vote. Commissioner Lemare.
Aye.
Commissioner Casper.
Aye.
Blaine.
Aye.
Zelinski.
Aye.
Myself is an aye. Motion carried. Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Very much. Keep up the good work.
Good
Great day.
report as always, thank you guys very much.
Enjoy your day.
You too.
Thank you.
Moving right along, administrators report.
Mr. Chair, I have nothing for the board today.
All right. How about, what's the schedules? Look at dates.
September 15th through the 28th.
15th through the 28th. Commissioner Zelinski, are you prepared to give us your schedule?
Mr. Chair, I am prepared.
All right, tell us what you have.
And without further ado, on Tuesday, we've got a planning meeting scheduled for 10 o'clock in the morning, and that planning meeting is rescheduled from 8:30 in the morning to 10 due to the Water Fest that is taking place at Camp Ripley, which I believe technically starts at,
9.
is it 9 o'clock? Okay.
Yes, Mr. Chair.
The Water Fest starts at 9 o'clock at Camp Ripley. The Water Fest for, if we all remember, lasts probably 15, 20 minutes or however long you want to hang around. That evening at 6 p.m., we have a PCBOA meeting, and that meeting is held right here in the boardroom. On the 18th at 9 o'clock in the morning, Water Fest continues at Camp Ripley. At 5 p.m. that same evening on the 18th, I've got a Hands of Hope meeting, and that meeting is virtual. On the 19th at 10 o'clock in the morning, I would normally have a Central Minnesota Owners and Operators meeting. The organization, the Emergency Services Board, together with the owners and operators, the users, and the RAC committee, have decided to try and do a joint meeting, and that meeting will be at 10 o'clock in the morning, virtual and in person on the 19th. If anyone goes in person, and I don't believe I will be attending in person, I believe I will be attending that virtually, that meeting would be held in Alexandria. On Friday, the 20th, just as a side note for everyone, St. Gabriel's Hospital Advocates are having a fundraiser. The Falls Ballroom, White Sidewalls will be playing, and that will go from 7 till 10:30, just as a bit of information to everyone. On the 24th of September at 9 a.m., County Board meets here in the County Board room. On the 25th, 1 o'clock in the afternoon, I'm scheduled for a Central Minnesota Emergency Services Board, and as it is right now, there normally is at an 11 o'clock executive committee meeting, and I don't think that there is an executive committee that day. I think it's just the Emergency Services Board. On the 26th at 12:30 in the afternoon, I have a State Emergency Communications Board meeting, and that meeting will be held virtually. Mr. Chair, that's all I have.
Thank you. Commissioner Casper.
Okay, starting on the 17th, at 12 o'clock, I have a community development meeting right at the Little Falls Golf Course. And then at 5 o'clock that evening, Great River Regional Library, so I will not be at PCBOA that evening. Then the 19th, the Airport Commission meeting out at Little Falls Airport. That's at noon on the Thursday. Then jumping to the week of the 23rd. On the 26th, Thursday, I have a Rum River Watershed meeting in Malacca at 4:30 in the afternoon. And then on the 27th, that Friday, I have Mississippi Headwater Board up at Walker at 10 o'clock. That's it.
All right, thank you. Commissioner Blaine, anything to add?
Mr. Chair, on September 19th, Thursday evening, the Egg Society will meet at 7 p.m. I believe they will meet at the fairgrounds on Monday, September 23rd at 5:30. The Extension Committee will meet. And, Mr. Chair, on Thursday, September 26th, Region 5 Development Commission will have their commission meeting at 6 PM.
Where is extension on Monday?
I believe the extension,
Oh, that's usually here.
yeah, they were talking about having a meeting at the Stish Farm.
Yeah, but we haven't been notified of that.
We
so
haven't been notified of that.
I
so-
guess we can get in touch with you.
But I believe,
What's
What's
that?
the EC meeting, Triple S Pumpkins? I have it on someone's calendar.
Oh, yeah.
oh, then it is, then they confirmed it. So we will be meeting at the Stish Farm, and
I got a mom.
maybe we'll take a pumpkin home, I don't
There you
know.
go.
Pumpkin head. So, that's all I have for you.
Thanks, Commissioner. Commissioner Lemire.
On the 18th, Public Health Advisory Meeting at 5 o'clock here in the boardroom. The 19th, the Long Prairie Watershed is canceled. Also on the 19th, Safety Committee meeting, 2 o'clock PM, Pierce Conference Room. On the 23rd is the Boys and Girls Club grand reopening at 4 o'clock,
When's that?
the 23rd. 25th, HRA, 9 o'clock at HRA. That's all I got.
Thank you, Commissioner Lemire. To add to that, the only other addition I would have is at 8 o'clock, Soil and Water on the 20th.
20th, not 27th.
Well, what do you have? Does somebody's, okay, let's put it to 27th then. All right, what the heck, I'll
Do you want me
believe
to
you.
call her?
All right, yeah, I'll, you know what, I can look at them calendar too.
Mr. Chair,
Go ahead.
just one other item for the just general public is that Morrison County is sponsoring a blood drive here in the Government Center on September 18th from 9 to 3 p.m. And go to the redcross.org to see if there's an opening that fits your schedule.
Perfect. Anything else, gentlemen?
I think that's it, Mr. Chair.
All right, moving right along, it is 9:32, we'll adjourn.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.